Hannity tonight. So much breaking news we will be covering throughout the entire hour tonight. Now, both officers are charged in the Rayshard Brooks killing. That's the one in Atlanta. They have now also surrendered, and we have key details, new details surrounding the arrest that you didn't hear from the district attorney yesterday. Keep in mind, you can't indict a ham sandwich, but the high bar will be 12 people on a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a lot of developments. But first tonight, I want us all to step back as a country. We need to step back, take a collective deep breath, and understand this moment and realize this country is at a tipping point. It's dangerous. We're at a point where we will either go the way of law and order, peace, prosperity, one American family, and the way of safety and the way of security. Or we will go down the road of liberal lawlessness and total anarchy. Now, because the sweeping, broad, in many cases false generalizations of groups of people, and let's be honest, outright lies at times, well, that we are about seeing officers, police officers, and the smears against those that stand in the way of chaos and you in the safety of your family. This nonstop rush to judgment is intensifying all around the country, especially in big cities by the hour. Now, this madness to defund, dismantle, destroy police departments, it is now a clear and present danger to the entire country. People will, and we'll have more details later, as Dan Henninger pointed out in the Wall Street Journal, they will be fleeing big cities in droves. Police across the country now are under attack. It is unfair, it is sick, and it is twisted. Not all cops are bad. 99%, as a matter of fact, are heroes. Look at the city of Atlanta, where just last night it appears that we are now seeing the beginning. It actually has a name. A lot of police are calling in sick. The name, Blue Flu. Large numbers of officers are calling in sick, basically saying, you know what, enough is enough following the charges in the Brooks case. The officers, they have lost faith in their leadership. They have lost faith in their ability to actually be able to perform their jobs to the best of their ability. This even acknowledged by the Atlanta mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, a Democrat. Even she is admitting morale is down tenfold. Here's a question. Do you blame them? Take a look.
Across the country, morale is down with police departments, and I think ours is down tenfold. This has been a very tough few weeks in Atlanta.
And according to a new report from the New York Post tonight, NYPD officers, New York City, they are being encouraged to strike on the 4th of July, although a department spokesman is denying that that strike will occur. Really? Can you guarantee that? Because if that happens, not just in New York City, but in cities across the country, I promise you that will not end well for we the people. It's now becoming untenable for the good police officers to do their jobs and do it safely with the support of the community and those politicians. It's disgraceful, it's unfair, it's unjust, and it's happening. They rush to judgment. Broad, sweeping generalizations. They're all racist, as we have been reporting, by the way. So many major cities that we talk about happen to have a majority of minorities on the job. In other words, a majority of minority police officers. And while I don't necessarily endorse the idea of the blue flu because of what could potentially happen, we have to ask ourselves, put yourself in their shoes, how would you be feeling today? In other words, would you like being called a racist or thought of as a racist? Or, as we've seen in New York, have buckets of water poured on your car and be assaulted and not have a mayor that supports you? And then have politicians, we have, the Forgetful Joe and Comrade de Blasio. Oh, this is all racism. Well, how do you think those officers that aren't racist, that put their lives on the line for us every single day and night, how do you think they feel, given the circumstances? Now, given the fact that liberal cities, like we've been talking about, New York, Seattle, Chicago, Detroit, are surrendering to far-left lawlessness and anarchy, and making it harder and harder, if not impossible now, for police officers to do their jobs. Earlier today, the New York Police Union chief, Pat Lynch, told Fox News, quote, "You are seeing these messages from New York City police officers because they now have reached the breaking point. Pay close attention. They're communicating something very loudly to we the people. Over the past few weeks, we have been attacked in the streets, demonized in the media, denigrated by practically every politician in the city and state. Now, some police officers, as a result of the violent rioters, not the peaceful protesters, there are peaceful people, but some of them are not. A lot of them are not. Some are now, police officers are dead, 800 plus injured. Rocks, bricks, Molotov cocktails. What we are seeing play out across the country with these officers being attacked, run over, shot, targeted is unacceptable. They will begin to leave this profession in droves. And frankly, ask yourself, can you really blame them? 800 officers injured, rocks, bricks, bottles, Molotov cocktails. Others have died and some are paralyzed from the neck down. It should disturb every good, decent American that believes in law and order. Ask yourself again, what do you think your community, wherever you happen to be tonight, will look like if these far-left leaders get their way? What's going to happen when these police officers say, we're retiring, thanks, but no thanks? Again, I ask the question, who are you going to call when it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night and somebody's breaking into your house to do harm to you and your family and your children? What are you going to do, heaven forbid, when violence strikes? We're at a point now where police, they're going to go on strike. They're going to quit. They're being blamed for the bad actions. We all acknowledge this. It was universal agreement in the case of George Floyd, and at our country, we always want to be a more perfect union. We will get better. The president laid out reforms to make us better. How are departments going to recruit good new candidates? They don't usually pay a whole lot of money either, especially in the early years of being a police officer. How are police departments supposed to function in an environment like this? Now, I want to be very clear. Of course, accountability is good. Of course, we need to expose abuse of power, corruption at all levels. We do it on this show every night. We did it at the highest levels of the deep state, within the FBI of all places, within our intelligence community of all places. But we always said the 1%, not the good 99%. What is going on right now with this defund police movements and no more police movements picking up steam? Well, that will obviously, you don't need a Harvard degree. This will lead to a crime wave. This will lead to an exodus from cities like you have never seen. I go back to this piece, Wall Street Journal, Dan Henninger, explaining that liberal lawlessness and failed far-left governance is simply making life too stressful, too chaotic, and crime-ridden to still live in places like New York and San Francisco and Minneapolis and many other big cities. What will these cities do when their tax base, like Chicago, for example, they move to states that don't have income taxes? Let's see, Florida, Texas, Arizona, or states like the Carolinas, Tennessee, low or no taxes at all whatsoever. Look at your screen. States like California, New York. Well, they have a mass exodus going on already. They've been losing residents long before all of this. And just look at the U-Haul costs. Let's say you want to move from California to Texas. Okay, guess what? If you're moving from Texas to California, you're going to pay a lot less. As a matter of fact, it's about $2,500 to move from California to Texas, but only about $400 to go back. Oh, you're doing U-Haul a favor because they need those trucks because people are racing out of California. And by the way, these men and women that put their lives on the line every day for you and your families, well, they do this because they love what they do. They're willing to take on the risk all day and every night. They mostly, 99%, do an amazing job. They save lives, they keep us safe, and yet liberal leaders are trying to turn them into villains. And then they are the exact opposite.